Good evening and welcome to Real Talk, where every Sunday night we offer insight, education, and resources to in-home caregivers and those affected in their world. This is the children, the parents, the extended family, and everyone who loves them. Our goal is to offer real-life topics and learning through discussion of real issues and offering real solutions. Tonight, I am very excited to welcome our guests, Jillian Klein-Ryman and Denise Rossell from White House Nannies, who are going to talk to us a little bit about kind of the agency perspective on what's going on in the world with COVID and how this is impacting placements within their agency and in their market, and kind of how, if you're looking for an NCS job at the moment, how to best snag those kind of jobs in a world where COVID has definitely impacted all of us. So welcome. I'm really glad to have you tonight.
Thank you so much for having us, Tanya.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to dig into this a little bit, but before we do, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourselves or about White House Nannies, kind of what you offer in your market and how you serve families?
Sure. So White House Nannies is a family-run, woman-owned business. It was actually founded by my mother in 1985. Celebrating 35 years in business. My father joined in 1995 to expand the temporary division, which is the division that Denise now leads. And that is actually where our newborn care specialists, the placements are in the temporary division as well. And I joined 2 years ago after having twins and getting into the childcare industry. The timing seemed right. I have so much more admiration and understanding of what caregivers are doing, and I certainly could not do what you do. When I had my newborn twins, I needed as much help as possible, and that's why we actually ended up back in DC. And White House Nannies has become the premier agency in the DC area. It's full service, newborn care, all the way through to chefs. So we do full-time nanny placements, family assistants, household managers, and Denise, feel free to add in.
Yeah, my name is Denise. I've been with White House Nannies. I actually just celebrated my 10th year anniversary. So I run our temporary division, and all the newborn care specialists and all the clients come directly to me. So I am the point of contact for everything that's temp and everything that's newborn care.
Oh, great. And I know that you guys have been doing this for a little while because we've come and done a couple of trainings for you out there now.
Yeah.
Loads of fun. So tell us a little bit, kind of maybe how things have gone since COVID before we kind of jump into things, because I know it had like an immediate impact and then things have changed a little bit even more since then.
So typically we feel that a lot of the jobs that we get are 24/7 and overnights. Mm-hmm. We felt that when COVID started, we started seeing a lot more of daytime help. And we also saw that a lot of people were coming to us last minute. And what we found is that the reason that they wanted the daytime help is because they were looking for a little bit more support, because they were trying to build a support system. And they were coming to us last minute because they were really nervous about bringing someone into their home. Mm-hmm. So they were contemplating and just thinking and saying, I don't really know if I can bring someone in. My pediatrician is telling me that I shouldn't have a lot of people in my house, or my doctors. So we feel that they just had this anxiety on top of already having a newborn. COVID just put it on another layer of anxiety. So we found that really that shifted, that they were coming to us more last minute. And the daytime help really was because they don't have the support system. So they thought they were going to have their parents or their friends or their family that were going to be able to come in and help them. And they really are looking for someone that's going to be there during the daytime hours to more teach them, instead of, maybe they were looking more before for more sleep or for different reasons.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I think in the beginning, like you were saying, there was this lull that nobody was making any moves. No one was having anyone into their homes. And now what we're seeing is all those people that were pregnant, when COVID was at its height, are now saying, okay, it's time for me to make my decision. And it is, like Denise said, more last minute. And so a lot of people that maybe were on their second or third child kind of still knew that they were going to have a newborn care specialist and booked further out potentially. But our first time parents, we're finding, are the ones that really could not make a decision and have been waiting until the last minute. And they realized, oh my gosh, I don't have my mom, my aunt, my sister, no one is coming to help me, whoever was that support system. And so the requests that we're getting are much more looking, like Denise was saying, for that support system. And so they're kind of looking, because they are limiting the number of people that are coming into their home. It's like, if you have doula training in addition to being a newborn care specialist and having, that training, if you have lactation support, if you can provide sleep conditioning and learning, that is something, these are things that our clients are asking us for. And, many NCSs that have taken your training time, they have all these things on their resume, but it's something that you really want to present yourself as being a value add, because you can be that one person for them.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, the more kind of training and experience on a broad spectrum somebody has, the more desirable that is as a candidate for your market right now.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's a lot of last minute decision making, which we all know can be a bit challenging when placing newborn care specialists. And I love that you touched on that point, that our parents who are second or third time parents and already know the value of a newborn care specialist, I think everybody laughs when I say it. The first call is, honey, I'm pregnant. And the second call is, how is your schedule next spring?
Mm-hmm.
To the newborn care specialist, for those who had one. They know that value. But nevertheless, you have families to serve. Absolutely. Is there anything else that you're seeing that makes this different than placements prior to dealing with COVID?
I think for us, a big challenge is that because these decisions are happening so last minute, it really, from a safety standpoint, it's much easier for us and for our clients to be looking regionally and locally than it would be to say, oh, we'll fly someone out. And we could have taken a much more national look before. At the moment, because these requests are coming with 2 weeks lead time, some of them, it's much better. And our clients are really looking for people that can either take a drive and be here without stopping, or just live in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know one NCS from Texas came up here to work a job in Arizona where I live, and she drove at the family's request 16 hours straight through.
Yeah.
So stopped for gas, and that was it. She packed a cooler, didn't even get food from anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, holy cow. She's like, they let me rest for 2 days once I got there. But yeah, people are being careful, and rightly so. We don't know what a lot of these long-term implications are. And I think, when you said that everything kind of stalled at first, I think a lot of us were really hoping this was just going to be a little short window and it was all going to go away and everything was going to get back to normal really quick. And that hasn't quite been the case.
No, and especially when you're dealing with newborns, they're so fragile. And NCSs know this, you're dealing with just the most precious, helpless being. And so this is where you just don't want to mess around. And that's where we feel really strongly that, we're going to take every precaution in terms of referring people. And we would hope that NCSs are also going to be taking the same precautions and just making sure everyone's on the same page.
Right. So tell me a little bit about what, aside from, local, not traveling, what else are you looking for in terms of COVID and safety precautions? What are you hearing from clients that they want?
Honesty. So they want to have a really honest conversation about what does COVID mean to the NCS. So something that we talk to our NCSs and our clients is be prepared to answer, what does social distancing mean to you? And we have a COVID scale that we look at, and it goes from, 0 risk to risky. And what we ask the client and the NCS to fill that out, because not only is your background and your experience right now a big part of what we're seeing clients that they're screening for is what does social distancing mean to you? What is it? What does your quarantine time look like? And really, it's also just the honesty is so important. So being able to say, these are the things that I'm doing. This is the precautions that I'm taking. Or, we also have heard some people say, let's take a temperature check. If they're coming in and out every day, take a temperature check and let me know what that is beforehand. And even if it's a really low grade fever, let the parent and the NCS discuss, do we want them to come in or not? And it really, it's from both sides. Both parties need to feel comfortable. So we just feel that that's just a really important question to be asking at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the conversation goes both ways. Denise and I were talking about this, that, if there's a family that is not going to be comfortable with you taking a walk, or that might not be the best long-term position. So we just think having these conversations at the outset is so important for it to be a good placement for both the NCS and the family.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I don't hear this as much with the NCS, but I certainly am hearing in the nanny world, hey, the family's expecting me to take all these precautions. And then I found out they went to a party over the weekend and, we're around 15 people or whatever. And they're like, why am I expected to follow this if the family's not doing an exchange? So I love that you're bringing these things up with the families also.
Oh, yes. That drives us nuts completely. We hear this all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And I know, you have a long track record, your company does, of being really good to your nanny candidates and NCS candidates. So it doesn't surprise me. How has this affected, or have you seen it affect those families who might have traveled a lot before, or took someone with them when they traveled, or are they traveling? Are they staying in the city? Are they leaving the city? What are you seeing?
The families that were big travel, some of them, the rare few, they would have private planes if they were traveling during COVID, and that's how the NCS would be traveling. That is not the bulk of the NCS jobs that we have, but for those that are traveling, it's either a drive or it is a private plane. Mm-hmm. It's really, are there other options that you're seeing, Denise?
No, and it's been exactly that. It's been private planes, and it's been a drive where they don't stop, and they're able to get there without stopping. Gas, but nothing else besides that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would tell you that I'm seeing the same thing here and hearing that a lot as well. And a lot of families that might not have chosen private before are choosing private now, if they're going to travel at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely. And how have you guys kind of adapted your interview process? Because this has changed things for a lot of people. How have you guys adapted that process with your agency and for the families?
We've turned everything virtual. Uh-huh. So everything is virtual. We used to do in person in our office, get to know the NCS. So we do our phone call, and then we'll do a virtual interview now. And the parents and the NCSs have moved everything virtually as well. One thing that we really love that we came up with one of our NCSs recently was the NCS was saying, I love doing a nursery tour. And just right before the baby comes, just, walk through with the parents, make sure they have everything we need, try to, guide them in the last couple weeks. And we talked to the parent and the NCS, and we're like, why don't you try doing it virtually? And they both loved it. And the client was so appreciative, and the nanny, the NCS also was just like, what a great idea. So it's not the same, but it is a good alternative right now. And so we've just seen everything has just moved virtually, but it's been a good transition.
Uh-huh. And are the families finding that they're as comfortable with decision making with these virtual interviews?
I haven't heard anything. No one has complained to me about it. I think they do multiple ones to make sure that they're getting to know them. But I haven't heard anything. I feel like they have lengthy ones, they get to know them, and they're still doing their references and everything. So, and if they do have the opportunity where they can meet outside and stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask, I know some families have done that if they're local. But if they're not, or if they're on a job and the family that they're with doesn't feel comfortable with them doing that, they've just stuck completely to virtual interviews.
Uh-huh. I think the hardest once they're ready to make the decision, they make the decision, but it's that deciding the type of care and are we going to have care that is the real lag time. But once they're ready to do it, they move.
Yeah. And that's a smart idea in the NCS world because the good
Right.
ones snagged up quick, for sure. What else do you feel like has been impacted? Are you seeing any requests that are like over the top, or that you feel like, well, normally it might have been over the top, but maybe right now it's not so over the top?
I was speaking to some NCSs and I did hear some of them telling me, they were asking things like, we don't want you going outside at all. So we want you in the house, staying in the entire time, not even going out for a walk because they're so cautious about COVID. So this, I think, is one of these times where it's really important to be honest before you take that job and make sure, am I comfortable with this? How long am I going to be with this family? Is this going to be sustainable for me or
Uh-huh.
not? Jillian, I don't know, have you heard of any other ones?
No, I think the more common things that may seem out of the norm to others is there's more mask requests for mask wearing, which is understandable. So making sure that everyone's comfortable. I think some people, some NCSs that wear glasses may have more issues in terms of wearing masks for long periods of time. But I think that that is really the expectation right now. And our families are hearing their source is their pediatrician,
Uh-huh.
and that is a lot of the reason why they're having NCSs and not family, is that their pediatrician is saying, if you're going to have your family come, do you have a place for them to quarantine for 14 days? How are you going to do this? And so that's why they're actually deciding, okay, my parents aren't going to come. I'm going to have an NCS come. And so the expectation is that person is going to take extreme precautions like mask wearing and potential, and whatever else they decide, but nothing completely out of the norm among our clientele, at least.
Right. Yeah, I know that in talking to a lot of NCS, I think most of them are pretty willing to take that as extra measure of precaution. I was talking to a gal out of Texas recently, and she said she was working with micro preemies. And so just a few weeks after getting married, she didn't get to see her brand new husband for 6 weeks, because he had a higher risk than she did, and she knew she was dealing with micro preemies, which we already as NCS are super careful when we're working in those kind of situations. And I was like, oh, bless your heart. Holy cow.
There's just so much anxiety from all sides of this in dealing with this. And I think we're seeing that in our families and coming to us that, this is a huge decision. There's so much weight that they've been carrying through through the pregnancy and then having the babies. And so I think NCSs are probably feeling this as well, not just on the receiving end, but having to kind of bear some of that anxiety and be that support system because for many people, you are their outlet. The NCS is the outlet and on the receiving end of so much built up anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is one of the things that we teach in our training is that part of our job is leaving healthy, empowered, confident parents. And a lot of that is listening and kind of just holding space for people who need to let some of that anxiety out. There's a lot of anxiety around being a new parent anyway.
Right.
Period. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you feel is really critical for our audience to know about this, whether they're parents, whether they're NCS, or maybe they're a nanny in a household where there's an NCS? Anything else that you think is really important for them to know about this?
I think, I mean, this is just basic, is that, right now, some of the things that we're seeing is just like, it's flu season.
Yeah.
Some people aren't necessarily people that would always get flu shots. That's kind of like one that we have to see if we're going to place you, just because the level of risk, and that is what our clients are expecting. And so I think this is a season to kind of, if maybe you don't do the flu shot every season, to consider potentially doing the flu shot this season to have we would need to see the flu shot.
And are you hearing that as a request from families?
Yes, Tdap, flu shot, up to date. Those are ones, and I guess that's what our pediatricians are telling all the parents, kind of across the board in this area, and it's something we look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every client
Go ahead.
Every client is asking for the flu shot. I've been hearing the flu shot, the Tdap, and they also want to see the measles. And I feel like even because of COVID, it's across the board.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, are you guys kind of at a point as an agency that you're like, look, if you don't have this stuff, we're not going to be able to place you, or just flat out, please, we love you, but please don't even bother? Where you kind of feel like you're at because of those requests?
I mean, with the NCS, at this point in time, we wouldn't be able to place an NCS with a family that didn't have the flu shot. We love having the information when the situation changes, if things relax, but at this point in time, Tdap for us is always, you have to have everything up to date with that. Mm-hmm. And flu shot, same thing, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, I think people are just too anxious to not consider that at this right now. And I'm hearing that from a lot of agencies, not just in your market. So
yeah, I feel like the client that would be one of the first questions when we try to connect them would be, do they have the vaccines? And they would say, please try sending me someone else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. So any final points, any final tips, anything that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I just say present yourself as that one person support system that you can be, and all that training that you have from your course, Tanya, is paying off right now. But it's a good time to get, if you don't have postpartum doula training, if you also are looking into that, it's a good time for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people who are really investing in their education very seriously right now. Mm-hmm. Because it is making them stand out in this market, for sure. So, well, I really appreciate you joining us on Real Talk tonight. It has been an honor to have you and learn with you guys. And I think you've shared some things that are really important for our audience to hear and to know about working with agencies. I will tell you that our NCS are loving that more and more agencies are really getting pretty good at this. So we love that too. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Tanya.
Absolutely. If you have any questions about this topic or anything related to working with White House nannies, whether you are a family or whether you are a caregiver, you'll be able to find their website and links to reach them in the feed. And if you have questions for them, you can post those questions in the feed and tag them or tag us here at Newborn Care Solutions, and we'll make sure that you get your answers. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you'd like to see this on replay, you can click at newborncaresolutions.com and go to the education tab, and all that stuff will be there on the replay, and anything that comes up there, we'll make sure they get it as well. Have a great night, and thanks for joining us.